And I have a question for us. I want to know what, if anyone wants to share, what is your definition of DEI? What do you think it is? Or what have you heard?
The workplace should be an equal place of employment.
Okay, equal place of employment. Okay. Any other? Yeah.
It's accepting people for who they are, where they came from, their current circumstances,
Right.
personal values.
Yes. What have we heard maybe that challenges the idea of that? Like the opposite of that. Criticisms of DEI, maybe. Have you heard any?
It's making other people do more work because women need time to breastfeed, things like that.
Well, that's a very specific answer that I'm certainly heard yet. Yeah. What else? Have we heard anything else? Yeah.
Criticisms, I think tokenism, so
Yep.
folks, black and brown folks in certain roles often get shepherded into these roles, but then they don't get the support when they're there. They're
Right.
just there for representation.
Right. And then when they complain, they're told they should be grateful that they're here. Right? It's that undertone of like, bro, you're a DEI hire, shut up. Or you're a personality hire. You can't do the work, but we need a good person on the team. So you stay over here with your little busy work, and then let us have conversations at the big kids table. Right? At the grown-ups table. You're not at the grown-ups table. Other things that you hear is like, it's really divisive. Really divisive, because what we do then is we try to say, well, you're a parent, you are a person of color, you are LGBTQIA, you are this, right? And then we start having conversations about people's identities in a place where we were all pretty much conditioned that as long as we're human, that's all that matters. What DEI aims to talk about and what it aims to bring to the table is that humans exist in a context, right? Kamala Harris said this all. We didn't fall out of a coconut tree. Like, we exist in a context. And so the context in my reality as a woman is different than that of a person who is a man. The context that I exist in as a woman of color is different than a person who is not a woman of color, right? And all of that matters when I come to the table and I try to have a conversation with you, and you don't understand that what you're saying to me is actually quite offensive because of the context I was raised in. And maybe you don't know because of the context you were raised in, which is not bad in of itself. What is problematic, though, is that if I tell you that you're doing something that's offending me or that is a little bit hurtful, and then you tell me, well, I didn't mean it that way, therefore your feelings are invalid, then we start getting into these other things. Where now, just because I've told you, hey, there's something else here that you might not know about, so I want to let you know this so that we can continue to connect, because the way that we're talking right now, I can't really connect because you're saying something that's hurtful to me. So I'm trying to bring it to the table so that I can connect with you more, but your response to it then is to be defensive and get upset with me that I have feelings at all, when you have no idea the context that I exist in. That's what we're talking about. And all the other stuff is trash, right? It just is. So this little exercise that I've done, that I'm going to preview with you, is one of the ways that I go into an organization that I can tell we don't either have a unified definition of DEI, or we're kind of talking about some other things, or an organization wants to go like straight to anti-racism work. They want to go straight to like, let's talk about dismantling white supremacy. Like, they want to just be over there. And then I find out that like, I'm not sure if we have a strong working definition. Like, I'm not sure we're all understanding the same thing. So this is one of the things I do in an organization, and hopefully it'll be quick. Now, you can keep all of your stuff to yourself, and I'll tell you, you're going to write something on the sticky notes if you have a pen. If you don't, let us know. And we're going to start with one of the sticky notes. One of the things that I say is normally I would have everyone come and put it on a whiteboard. So we would have sticky notes on this whiteboard when it's done. I'm not going to do that. But what I also say is I'm just going to ask the questions. I ask you to write an answer on your sticky note, but it's just for you. I'm not going to read them. You're going to do all that thinking work yourself, and we'll all get there together. You can also put a symbol on there. I don't care. Heart, star, X. As long as you know what it means, I care not. Yes? Okay. So this is how I get started in an organization. And the first thing I'm going to ask you, Because the whole point of this little couple minutes that we have, which is a part of a 4-hour workshop, is we're just gonna define it, right? And hopefully, if you are hearing some of that anti-DEI rhetoric, we can use this and be like, that's not what this is. So what's one thing in your life that made you different from others around you? Now this question is sometimes the easiest to answer when you think of your childhood. That's when differences first pop up and some of those like core memories come up. But it could be at any time in your life. It can even be right now. Is there something that makes you different from the people around you? My answer is I'm adopted. And there's not a lot of people that are adopted. I didn't really know that, right, at first, but I am. So I knew, right, that's one thing that made me different is I'm adopted. What is that thing for you?
Doesn't matter what color paper you put up.
Oh, good call. See, Dave, I didn't do it. Good call. Let's choose yellow because Ty's already writing on that one. You need what? Pink. Perfect. If there's another pink somewhere.
I didn't give you a pen. I was holding my pen.
I didn't know we needed all of them.
I feel terrible.
Dave has pink. There we go. We got pink.
I had extra.
Perfect. All right. So you got on your yellow. All right. So here's some examples. And I've heard different things. I was really tall. I was really short. That's me. I wore glasses. I had special shoes. I had braces on my feet. Whatever the case may be, there was something that made you different. What's that thing? Now the next color, let's go ahead and make that, so let me pick one. Blue. Let's do blue. Now, considering what you wrote on yellow, let's open the blue sticky, and I want to know how you knew that that was the difference. What experience taught you that that was different? Now, it could be that one of these things don't look like the other. I'm 6 feet in the 4th grade. I knew that, right? Some of them are much more subtle. Like, all of my friends would celebrate Christmas and we didn't celebrate Christmas because of our religion. Could have been that. Could have been, all of my friends would talk about all the vacations that they would go on and I didn't have that, right? Whatever the thing may be, at some point you recognized that you were different. What happened there? For me, it was when we would have those, like where I felt different, right? Is when in like biology class, we would have those like family tree activities. And they would try to have us like trace genetics and be like, where do your earlobes come from? Or like, can you roll your tongue and that kind of thing, right? And they would go and ask you to go home and talk to your parents and create a family tree so you can track and trace your genetics. So sometimes I used to use my adopted family, my real family, and I would see if like there was some luck, cause like I know what this means, you know what I mean? Adopted means we don't share genes, okay? So I get that. So I would sometimes do it, and like if I happened to have something, I knew it was luck, but I would turn in the assignment, or because also I'm a neurodivergent person, and I usually wait till the last minute to do stuff, I would just make it up. Because you know what? At the end of the day, I'm adopted, so no one's gonna know. I just make it up. I just put a bunch of stuff, make it make sense, and turn it in, right? But other kids, so that was my experience. Get the assignment done. But do you know what I noticed with other kids? They would come home, back to school from home, and they'd be like, I found out that my great-great-grandfather had light eyes. I found out, so they would like find out these really cool, interesting things about their biological families, which is an experience that I could never relate to and I couldn't have it. And it's not just me. This is one of the reasons we talk about education and how we use assumed family dynamics as educational tools for children. Doing something like that could potentially not only harm adopted children, but also children that are in foster care, also children that are not with their biological relatives for whatever reason, also children's families who have passed away for whatever reason, right? Like that could be really traumatizing to have a 7th grader, 12-year-old, a 10-year-old have to do those types of things. It's the same thing that I've experienced. So for you all, right, what's the difference? Like how did you find out? How did you know that you were different? Now the last question is this. And you might fall into one of two categories here. Either you were different in some sort of way, and you were in an environment that gave you everything you needed. Okay? You were dyslexic, you got tutors, you got help at school, you got those things, yes? That could be you. Or you could be in the second category, which means you didn't get everything you needed. You were different in some kind of way and you didn't get everything you needed. So my question is, if you got the thing that you needed, what was the most helpful? What was the most supportive for you? And if you didn't get the thing that you needed, what would have been helpful for you?
Just the pink one?
Yes. What would have been helpful for you? If you got everything you needed, what did you get that was the most helpful? If you didn't get everything you needed, what did you need? Now for me, and one of my friends is here today, I didn't know other adopted children. And looking back, it would have been incredibly helpful for me to know other adopted kids. Incredibly helpful. Now, I know an adopted child now. Now, funny enough, we call ourselves siblings, because who cares? You know what I mean? Nobody's genetically related around here. So we just get to claim things and make stuff up. He knows his family and he knows his siblings, and they like said something. I was like, can I join that group? Like, I could be a sibling too. He's like, why not? Right? The thing is that we now have conversations about like our biological children. Because for the first time, we're seeing things like a biological human look like us, or having like similar quirks in our personalities and things like that, and we know that they're genetic. And it's wild because most people take that stuff for granted. They're like, I act like my mom, I got that from my dad, right? But understand that I've never had that experience. So when I look at these 5 humans, it's the first time that I'm building like a real connection with somebody who's biologically related to me, and really it's uncanny. Like, it's the first time I'm experiencing the things that everybody else has talked about. Now everyone is like, yeah, I mean, you have eyes like your dad, it's a thing. So you might not geek out with me over that. But you know who will? A friend who's adopted, who's experiencing the same thing. So that's what would have been helpful for me. So considering that, I've asked 3 questions. DEI is 3 letters. What are we about to do next? We're about to figure it out. So the options are diversity, equity, or inclusion. And here is the first question that was on the yellow sticky, is what made you different? So what does that relate to, diversity, equity, or inclusion? Any other guesses? That one's usually easy, you're right. That one's usually easy. It's what makes you different. So diversity, equity, like diversity, while everyone else has a bunch of stuff to say, diversity is simply differences. It's simply people that are different from each other in whatever way we say it. Tall people, short people. Sexuality, gender. Race, cultural background, religious background, political views, generations, whatever the case may be. All diversity means is that you got a bunch of them in a space. That's it. It literally means nothing else. So then the other question that I ask is like, all right, we have 30 people, right? However many people, and all of you guys conceivably have something on your yellow sticky, yes? And statistically, likely not the same as everybody else, yes? So regardless of what it looks like physically, is this a diverse space? And it's the same answer when I've given this to 25 white men. All white men. All white, all men. And the point is that at the end of the day, guess what? They all got their own stickies too. So also, is it true that a homogenous group, a group of 50 white people, all white men, which is where I've been, right? Or all women, or all black people, can you look at a group and be like, it's not diverse? No, you can't. Now, can you ask questions about the type of diversity that exists? Yes. You can say it's not diverse in gender, it's not diverse in race, it's not diverse in this, but like, let's be clear about human experiences first. We can have whatever conversation we want to have, but we can't have a conversation that's based in a false premise. And that's really important, right? So that's all this is that it's different. I said that, great. Okay, next. How did you know you were different? You had an experience, you thought about it, you wrote it down, you figured out you were different. What do you think this one is? You think this one is equity, or do you think this one's inclusion?
Inclusion.
Why is it inclusion?
Because those experiences are what help you to realize whether or not you feel included or excluded.
That's how you figured it out, right? It's inclusion because it's exactly that. You figured it out. Now, when it comes to workplace inclusion, the working definition that I use most frequently is this one, which is the recognition, appreciation, and use of diverse perspectives in the room. So like the thing, I'm adopted. I don't know what all adopted children's experiences are like, but the general context of it, I have it, right? So if I'm in a space and we decide that we want to do marketing for other children that are adopted, right? And I'm sitting here, but you tokenize me as the DEI hire and I'm at the little kids table, you go make big kid decisions about how to market to that demographic and you don't even ask me. That's how presence and diversity alone doesn't mean anything. That's why in the working definition of the term, I talk about recognition, appreciation, and use, not exploitation, but use of. The utility of it. The usefulness of asking the person that you've sat on the corner of the room what their perspective is, right? That you inherently see value in their difference as having a perspective that adds to the conversation and adds complexity to the conversation, right? That you wouldn't have had otherwise if you hadn't have asked their perspective. Now that comes through diversity, whatever type of diversity you're talking about, but that's how we get that. That's how when you see certain things and you're like, man, that fell flat. You're like, did they actually talk to anybody that they're marketing to right now? Like, was somebody at the table? Was somebody in the room?
Right.
Like, you ask those questions. Why do you ask those questions? Because somebody either wasn't in the room, lack of diversity, period, right? Either they weren't there at all, or they were there, but they weren't included in the conversation. That's how that happens. And you can see it every single time. In fact, now you'll probably see it more because you'll be like, you didn't ask them. You didn't get that. Another tidbit in leadership. Inclusion and diversity also relates to positions within organizations. This is where leadership gets into trouble. This is one of the lenses that leadership can use DEI in the context of their work. Because sometimes top-heavy organizations make decisions for other people and they never ask. You have all the diversity in the world in your organization across every single position that you have, yet there's only 5 people in the room making choices about what everyone else is going to do. That's why they don't feel included. That's why they jump ship. Every time. So DEI, again, as much as, and also, I don't often lead with like black examples or examples about being a woman as a person that does this work. The reason is because as soon as I do that, then you think DEI is just that, and it's not. It is something that you can exercise when everybody looks the same, because you'll always have differences in perspectives and you'll always have differences in experiences. So the last one, you guys know. What is it? Equity. Now, why is it equity? Equity is about support. Equity is about the thing that you do, the tools that you have to support the people that you have, right? So here's the thing. You have a bunch of people and they all come from different backgrounds and they all need a different level of support to include them at the table, yes? Because we talked about that. We said we had different people with different perspectives. We have a conversation over here. If you want to include them in the conversation, then you have to ask them, right? And get them into the table. But sometimes we have people that there's a gap between how they can contribute, how productive they can be, what they need, what supports they need, what mentorship they need, those sorts of things. Equity fills the gap between diversity and inclusion. Now, SHRM is in hot water at the moment because SHRM has decided that they want to take the E out of DEI. Usually because when you have something like equity, you literally are pouring in resources to people with gaps to fill it. And what happens is when you give everyone what they need so that they can compete just like you, it's quite possible you won't be at the same place. And that's threatening. So you will have organizations that are they'll have really easy conversations with me about diversity. Really easy. And they'll come to me and they'll want to talk about hiring and they'll want to talk about all these kind of things, which I mean I could do. Also, PG&E's not free, right? You know what I mean? So like, okay, I mean I could have the conversation. And also, let me just tell you, I'm not sure what'll happen next if this is the only conversation we're having. Right? So if you bring me on, I'm happy to do it. I just don't know what you think the return is going to be if we're not going to talk about this also. But the choice is yours because I have content and I will deliver it. Now I did do that once, and about 6 months later, I had given my advice, and 6 months later, an organization was having some problems after I'd come in and I did a workshop and stuff, and then I politely had to say, hey, so about 6 months ago, we had a conversation, and I was concerned about this. I think we're here. I think it's okay. I think we can move past it, but it's important that if we're going to re-engage the conversation, like we got to know where we are. And where we are is that we skipped a step. Right? Not impossible, but harder. And so equity is about support. It's the things that you do. It's the color groups in reading classrooms. It's the going in the classrooms and knowing that different kids are at different places in reading groups, so you give them the books that they need to stay engaged and also learn. That's equity. So equity are the things that you do. Diversity are the people that exist. Inclusion is how you bring them in so that they can add value to the place. That's it. You can have this conversation in any context that you want to have it in, but at the end of it all, it is never only about race. It's never only about gender. It's never only about sexuality. It's never only about anything. It's about whatever it means to your organization at that time that you're having the conversation. And that's it. Which also means, and I also start here, because sometimes I will have organizations that just want me to help them bring in a bunch of new people. Absolutely not. The first thing that we need to do is figure out how this is operating in the organization you have. Once you can figure that out with the people that you have, I'm pretty confident that you can bring anybody else in the room and know how to pivot and make sure that they have it. But if you can't do it with the people that exist, I don't want to help you bring in new people and traumatize them. I don't want to help you do that. Right? I want you to learn how to do what you have with the people that are here. All right, so I talked about that, and these are different types of groups. This is the last thing. So when you have some initiatives, just in case, these are just some talking points. If you want the PowerPoint, let me know. If you got people that are breathing and saying a bunch of stuff and you're like, I knew they were wrong, but let me stick it to them, I'll give you the slide. You can stick it to them. Because this is what it is. Gender equity, these are all the different things, including neurodiversity. I'm doing work with people who want to market to people that are neurodivergent. People that are dyslexic, have dyscalculia, ADHD, autistic, things like that. Like, this is what it is. These are the initiatives. So also, when we're getting rid of DEI programs, right, and we're doing it on the basis of race, what also needs to be talked about is that when you just get rid of a DEI program because you think it's about race, you are also getting rid of all the programs that support all of these other people. You are obliterating it for everyone, including the people that look just like you. That's what's important about DEI. That's what's important about educating people about DEI and not leaving it to whatever echo chamber we're in social media to tell us things that are literally not true. With that, I think we're good for the 15 minutes. Did we get something? Did we learn something?
Yes.
Are we good? And we're ready to take a break and eat food? All right, we're good.